Continuing. It says he mentioned drone strikes on 14 separate occasions in this roughly 15-minute talk. And that's the spirit, because when you go check into because this is the hot topic right now. So if you don't know anything about this Somali, this general of Iran that got assassinated, because he didn't, this wasn't combat. The spirit is basically this chapters about drone wars, and it's some very interesting information in this article. This chapter of the book, but through the spirit, like I'm reading about this, but Somali was actually taken out by a drone. It says the summary point reported across new outlets was that President Obama was curtailing the use of drones. And if you go into Obama's presidency, he, like, I believe was the president with the most like drone strikes. Like he killed a lot of people through the use of drones. He was doing no such thing, nor really did the president say he was. He merely said, I've insisted on strong oversight of all lethal action, meaning that White House and CIA lawyers would continue to be in the loop before individual terrorists were targeted for assassination by unmanned systems, including American citizens living overseas. And you see how he justified that, As Commander-in-Chief, the President had twice endorsed significant Department of Defense reports. Unmanned Systems Integrated Roadmap, FY 2011 through 2036, and Unmanned Systems Integrated Roadmap, FY 2013 through 2038, which called for the amplification, not the curtailment, of the Pentagon's pursuit of robotic warfare. These two reports, roughly 300 pages in total, made clear that Pentagon drones were positioned to lead the way forward over the next 25 years of war. And that's the spirit, because I got a whole other book on Through the Spirit. I just read these books. And the other one's, I think, called Army of None. And, like, when you see Terminator and Skynet, like, they really literally got a system. I'm going to bring all that out, though. Laura willing, through reading this book and doing these lessons, it's all through the spirit, though. Like I said, like I had finished my other lessons because I was doing lessons on MK Ultra and different techniques that Esau used to manipulate and control the population through psychology, mind warfare, all that. And as soon as I finished that and was switching over to start doing lessons out of this book, The Pentagon's Brain, it was like the same day. I didn't do a lesson, but I was about to. That's when I found out about Trump basically had that general killed. It says DARPA's vast weapon systems of the future will involve an entire army of drones. They will include, all based on, now who's gonna operate that system. So yeah, they're gonna have like a Skynet system. I forgot what it's called, but it's mentioned in this book. They will include unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, unmanned ground systems, UGSs, unmanned surface vehicles, USVs, unmanned maritime weapon systems, UMS, and unmanned aircraft systems, UAS. Weapons that reach from the depth of the ocean to outer space. At present and in the future, the Pentagon's drones will fly, swim, crawl, walk, run, and swarm as they conduct missions about the globe. It's like around the globe. Some of these drones will be cyborgs, or what DARPA calls biohybrids, which are part animal and part machine, and the technology, which has been building for decades, is closer than the average citizen might think. Bear with me for a second, because the scripture came. Bring that back, because it says some of these drones will be cyborgs, or what DARPA calls biohybrids, which are part animal and part machine, and the technology, which has been building for decades, is closer than the average citizen might think. And basically, when you go into like all this chip, that's what they're already creating. You got cyborgs already. That movie Upgrade basically showed you that. I forgot what they was calling them, upgrades. They was calling people that actually had the technology within them. They was blending in with society, but they considered themselves better. They call it upgrades. But that's just letting you know. This is the Book of Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 11. gonna start at verse 15. But for the foolish devices of their wickedness, wherewith being deceived, they worship serpents, void of reason, and vile beasts. Thou didst send a multitude of unreasonable beasts upon them for vengeance. Verse 16, that they might be Salaki, that they might know that wherewithal a man sinneth, by the same also shall he be punished. So, like I said, and that's the spirit. Like, you know, these Edomites, they created all these zoos. I mean, you know, where they basically just, you know, like, because they break the spirit of these animals. They put them in zoos. Animals are meant to be free. You know, a lion is meant to be free, not caged up. You can see, like, I forgot who went into that about how you could tell a certain lion that actually has been raised in the wild. You know, one that's born in the zoo, that's totally different. It's not used to being free, but one that was born in the wild, you can see it in its eyes. You know, and it says by the same. Let me repeat it. That they might know that wherewithal a man sinneth, by the same also shall he be punished. So with these same creations that they're creating, these machines, you know, like we're reading the story of Esther right now because the Purim is coming up, and one of our brothers in our camp, he likes to like read about the high holy days before we partake in them. And he's the youngest brother in the camp, so just do water for that brother, because you know he's a true believer. He be in the spirit majority of the time when he ain't, you know, got the young man spirit on him, but you know, not trying to antagonize the young brother, but at the end of the day, and you know how like with Esther, how basically like Haman was basically how the Lord allowed Haman to be supplanted. You know what I mean? Like he flipped it, even though Haman had plotted, you know, Israel's demise. You know, the Lord basically flipped it. Like Haman created those gallows and was going to try and hang Mordecai and his people, but you know, the Lord set it up where the same gallows that he had built to, you know, destroy Israel was flipped and he was hanged on it. You know, it says, for the almighty hand that made the world of matter without form wanted not means to send among them the multitude of bears or fierce lions. Verse 18, or unknown wild beasts full of rage, newly created, breathing out either a fiery vapor or filthy scents of sacred smoke, or shooting horrible sparkles out of their eyes. But my point, or the point was, unknown wild beasts, newly created, full of rage, newly created. And that's, you know, these hybrids, you know. But it's more interesting information. In the very heart of Washington, D.C., across the street from the White House, sits a public park called Lafayette Square, so named to honor the Revolutionary War hero Marquis de Lafayette. The park has a storied history. It briefly housed a graveyard and for a while a racetrack. Slaves were sold here. Like most of, you know, these monuments that Esau actually hold dear. You know, have you ever considered? And then you got these dumbass jakes that's just so blinded or so whooped. That's how our people, you know, a lot of our people are destroyed. I mean, it shows you when you got the men of the Lord or the hopeful elect of the Lord that's standing up and come out week in and week out and prophesy the downfall of this place. But for the most part, a lot of our people are beaten up. Like when you go look at a lot of these historic sites that Esau holds in reverence, they all have like some kind of wicked taint to them. Like I was listening to the brothers from Ancient of Days, and they was going into like the term motherfucker. You know, just, you know, how the atrocity of that, where they just, you know, they took a Jake and had Jake having sex with his mother, and, you know, just sick, twisted, fucked up shit. You know what I mean? Like, and then they'll think that they don't have anything to pay for it. You know what I mean? Like, Salakia. It says, during the War of 1812, the 7-acre park served as a soldier's encampment. In the modern era, it has become home to war protests. It was here during an anti-war rally in the fall of 2007 that Bernard Crane, a prominent Washington, D.C. attorney, saw one of the strangest things he ever seen in his life. And this is the point I want to bring out. I'm gonna stop here and start up again.